What's up, everybody? It's me, Porto, your host with the most, and today on the channel we're going to be talking about one question that I've been asked over and over and over and over again. And that question is, why Fuji? Whether that's when I'm speaking at a workshop and a photographer or videographer pull me aside and ask me my story and why I decided that Fuji was the right brand for me, or whether it's through a direct message on Instagram asking the same question, or a personal message on Facebook, or a comment in our blog or Instagram when I post about Fuji, that question seems to come up a lot. Even at weddings, where there's guests who might know just a little bit about cameras, they've kind of come up to me and they've been like, hey, so are you team Canon, Nikon, or Sony? And when I answered team Fuji, they all kind of give me the same dumbfounded look, like, what? Why? Or what is that? And so I figured that I would do a video on it for anyone who's kind of trying to figure out if the Fuji system is right for them. I know lately a lot of people are thinking of going mirrorless, and there's a lot more options now than there were when I first got into the camera game for Fuji. And so I wanted to make sure that I made a resource for those who are kind of making that decision and trying to figure out if Fuji is right for them. So we're gonna just talk, and hopefully this will be helpful to you. I've enjoyed it, and I'll say this from the get-go, I am not sponsored by Fuji. I'm a Fuji fanboy by choice. Woo! Fuji! Fuji! And so I will share what won me over. Maybe it'll win you over. I will say that there are great cameras on the market. But for me personally, Fuji is the only answer. And so it might be that way for you too, and I hope you find that answer by the end of this video. So the first reason that I switched was because the size and the weight of the camera. At the time when I first really got interested in Fuji, the X-T1 had just been released, and my wife and I were shooting weddings at the time together, and I've always kind of had a bad back, and carrying around my Canons with those giant lenses just was not conducive for me. It always left me in pain the next morning, and I had a lot of problems. I was having to go to a chiropractor and a massage therapist once a week. I know, pity me, a massage therapist, but a lot of times it actually wasn't like a feel-good, relaxed, like, ooh, that feels great massage. It was actually a little bit painful. So I had to do that week in and week out, and that's not cheap. But I had to do that in order to make sure that I could keep up with the heavy load that I was, that I had on my back. And at the time, we were shooting Canon for photo and Sony for video. And we saw the X-T1 came out, and I was kind of intrigued because I've always liked the style of Fuji cameras. I just wasn't sure if it was right for me professionally. And so I got an X-T1 and I loved it. However, I wasn't sold on the speed. Everything about the knobs and the way the camera looked and felt in my hands, and I'm a small dude, so it felt really good in my hands, but the speed just wasn't there. So I had to continue, and we kind of kept the X-T1 as a personal camera for a while. And then, fast forward to the release of the X-T2. Everything I was reading about it was exactly what I was hoping would come out in a Fuji camera. And I honestly just jumped ship immediately. I knew in my heart that this was going to be the right decision. So before I even could get my hands on an order of an X-T2, I listed all of my Canon and Sony gear and ordered one. It was back ordered, so I actually rented one from Fuji in the meantime, because I had a few weddings and engagement shoots that I had to shoot. But I knew that this was going to be the right camera for me. So I sold everything from Sony, Canon, stocked up on Fuji, and I just dove straight in. And I was right. The weight and the size of that camera was exactly what I needed. There was such relief when it came to every single wedding that I had, every shoot, all the traveling, all the elopements, climbing, up a mountainside or down a waterfall. Like, that was painful before, and it was enjoyable now once I switched to the Fuji system. And so size and weight played a huge factor in my switch to Fuji. That was the first thing that made me go, I think this camera might be right for me. And so knowing that I was going to get amazing quality, but also preserve the longevity of my body in this industry, I knew that I wanted to do this for a long time, and being able to make sure that I was taking care of myself at the same time, it was kind of a no-brainer. So that was the first reason that I decided that this was going to be a good idea for me. The second was the usability. I just loved how easy it was for me to pick up a Fuji camera and kind of know it like the back of my hand. That might not be the case with everybody, but for me, it was just great. The design of it was perfect for my style of shooting. Being able to control everything with the knobs, being able to see everything in real time, it just kind of worked. And I felt like I was spending less time having to like mess with my camera and more time actually being present in my shoots than I previously was before. So for me, I knew that this was going to help me not be a better photographer as in taking better photos. That's something I still had to do, but actually being a better and more present photographer in the sense of being able to actually focus on my clients, focus on my couples, and being able to be in the moment instead of being in my camera, looking through the viewfinder or anything like that, and being able to know that I got the shot that I wanted instead of having to go in and make sure that I got the shot. It was just good, you know, like I just loved the usability of it. It just seemed to be efficient. And efficiency is so important, especially when I was shooting weddings. I wanted to make sure that I could rely on my camera. And with the X-T2, I started to really feel that. And then obviously with the X-T3, there was those improvements. And now with the X-T4, I'm just loving it. And can't say anything bad about the GFX. That thing is just money. So being able to actually like buy into a system that felt right for me and then continued to feel right for me through the years was honestly like a no-brainer to me, and that's a big part of where my loyalty came from. The next reason was the product that we were able to put out. I remember that when I was actually considering the switch, and when I had posted that we were going to switch, I remember getting a lot of pushback from some friends in the industry. People that I know, people that I love, people that I respect as photographers. But their opinion of me switching was that it wasn't a good idea. That Fuji was not ready to be a wedding professional's camera. And I just realized that like once I started shooting with the X-T2, I was so much more pleased with the quality of images that I was producing. Like I said, I was able to be a little more present, and I just felt like I was in my element. I felt like that camera and I were one, like it was just part of me. And the images showed that. They were beautiful, they were crisp. The 90 millimeter on the X-T3 and the X-T2 back then, and now the X-T4 was just beautiful. And the 23, and I just have nothing bad to say about the quality of images I was able to produce. And so a lot of people didn't think that I would be able to produce those kind of images. And then when I was using the X-T2, I started to get a lot more like recognition and compliments from them. It was actually when I switched that my work actually started being acknowledged for the hard work that I was putting in. And that's when I actually won Rangefinder Top 30, was after my switch to Fuji. So it kind of just proved everybody wrong that Fuji was ready to be a professional's camera, and it was the right professional's camera for me. The next reason was the customer service. I'm not going to say anything bad about Canon's customer service. When I worked, when I was shooting with Canon, they had great customer service. I was part of their CPS team, I believe it's called. It's been years, so I don't really remember, but I think it was called CPS. And I always got great service, so there's no dogging them. But with Fuji, I immediately got such great service. I had told them that I had ordered it, but that I really, really needed it for some shoots, that I had already listed my gear. They immediately made sure that they had one in my hands within 2 days that I could use in the interim, and the experience was just great. And there's a guy named Steve there that I've worked now through the last 4 or 5 years. with who works in the service department, and he is always quick to respond, quick to make sure that I'm taken care of, and so I've really enjoyed the customer service. Even though I haven't spent too much time getting to know a lot of the Fuji team, I have some friends that are, Fuji creators, and I love the fact that they are treated so well as well, and they have nothing but good things to say about the staff. And so for me, a staff that really cares, customer service is huge. If I go to a restaurant and the food is delicious, but the service is trash, I probably won't go back there. To the point that it frustrates my wife, because she's like, it was delicious, like, get over it. And I'm like, no, it wasn't delicious because I didn't have fun. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like the way I was treated. And so the fact that it's not just a good meal with Fujifilm, but it's actually good service to go with it, that was just something that I couldn't pass up. It was just like the icing on the cake to the things that I already loved about the Fujifilm system. Another reason was I just wanted to go against the grain. There were so many people that were, Team Nikon, Team Canon, Team Sony, and not many that I knew at the time that were Team Fuji. And listen, I was a Canon fanboy, all right, at first. I even had that little 24 to 70 little plastic coffee lid thing that I think every Canon photographer or videographer has had at one point in their life. And I even thought I was going to get a Canon tattoo once. But Fuji just came in, like I said in the intro, and they stole my heart. And so the idea of doing something a little bit different than what everyone else was doing in the industry, that spoke my language. Like, I like going against the grain. I like being able to blaze my own trail, and I felt like Fuji gave me the opportunity to do that. And so I grabbed the flag and I marched with it, and I've enjoyed it ever since. And I just keep on going, and I feel like it allows me to be me with Fuji. It allows me to be a little bit different than others, and continue to express my creativity. Another thing that I love about Fuji is that I've waved the banner for them, and it's actually paid off. And so one thing I hate is when you suggest a restaurant because it's absolutely delicious and you loved it, and you send friends there, and then it's the worst experience ever for them, and they come back to you and they're like, what the crap were you talking about? That place was trash. Like, you feel like a buffoon. And so me personally, I love something and I get behind it and I back it. So when I fell in love with the Fuji system, I started promoting it like crazy and telling people, and that blog that I had written years ago actually kind of went crazy and got into a Fuji magazine and tons of reposts throughout different countries, and it never came back with someone saying, you were wrong, Fuji was horrible. Like, it's always been, thank you for introducing us, or you were right, this camera's incredible. And actually, it was pretty cool because I had two brides that after I shot their wedding, they messaged me shortly after saying, based off of the experience that they had, they decided that they wanted to pursue wedding photography themselves, and they decided to go with Fuji as their camera system based off of the fact that the memories that they loved and cherished in their photos were created with Fuji. And now, with the Porto's team, there's 7 people on my team under me, and 6 of those 7 have converted from all their different camera systems to Fuji. There's one guy on our team, his name's Ron. We still need to, get him a little more familiar with the Fuji system. He'll come around, so leave him a comment, tell him he needs to hurry up and make the move so that he can make magic as well. But it's just something that's always been something that I've been able to preach at people or, share with people, and they've come back and kind of backed what I said, and they fell in love with the system as well. And then one of the last things that I really love about Fuji is the color science. Like, I've never experienced editing like I have when it comes to Fuji, both in photo and video. And for years, I worked at Apple as a creative and helping different people edit their photos and videos, and I've edited every single kind of file, every single kind of RAW file, every single kind of video file. And it wasn't until I edited a Fuji RAW that I really fell in love with the color science of a camera. And so I love the fact that I can take out my X-100V and I can shoot in JPEG wherever I go, and that I'm completely pleased with the quality and colors of those images, even if I didn't do any post-production. And I love the fact that I feel like I'm really in control of my end result product when it comes to Fuji and their files and their color science. So that's how I fell in love with the Fuji system and why I represent Fuji so hard. And so for me, it's a no-brainer. I'm sticking with Fuji. I don't see myself ever jumping ship because year after year, Fuji puts out a new camera and I fall in love all over again. It's like a middle school crush where I feel like I'm writing the name and then enclosing it in a heart. And that happens time and time again. So that's why I love Fuji. Is it for you? I don't know. What I would say though is do not knock it until you try it. Rent it, go to Lens Pro to Go, or even rent from Fuji directly. Just rent it, and I promise you that you will enjoy the experience. So check them out. Let me know what you think. If you like Fuji, let me know. If you don't like Fuji, let me know why. If you like the channel and you think that this was beneficial to you, subscribe. And if it wasn't, subscribe. And if you have friends, tell them to subscribe. So leave comments. I love to connect with you guys. I will be talking more and more about Fuji throughout the time of this channel. But for right now, I don't want to bore you guys with too much information. So until the next video, have a good one and God bless.